Hey guys, what's going on? Absolutely Beast, bringing you guys another video today. So this race here in the background is with the Caterham, and it's in, I think it's called the R500, and this is on Silverstone, which is a really fun track. So I think I'm going to make this a series. I did my video yesterday, and it was titled Forza 7, How to Prepare, and I talked kind of in depth about, taking the turns and kind of doing the apexes and sort of my visualization of how I think about taking turns and all that kind of stuff. But what I really want is I want to help other people improve. Now, I'm not the best racer out there. I have been fairly high ranked at certain points when I've really gone hard and raced a lot. But I feel like I want to use this chance to help you guys get better. And I'm sure a lot of you are faster than me, but I'm sure there's also a lot of people who just want to be faster. And these are things that apply to not only those of you who are more casual or those of you who aren't as skilled, but also to those of you who are more skilled and much more experienced. Because as I said in the video yesterday, there's always room to improve, no matter how fast you are. I'm sure at some high level, like I'm sure if you played like 15,000 hours, there'd probably be a point where you'd start to have diminishing returns and you wouldn't improve as much over time. But I mean, that's obscene. I've seen some people who played Forza quite a bit. I can think of a few people on 5 and 6 that I've seen that probably have 5,000 hours, and they're so that's absolutely obscene, and that's still maybe only a third of, but anyway, that's just a hypothetical number. So I want to help you guys get better. So I know there's a lot of you that aren't as familiar with racing, and thank you guys for the support. We're almost at 100 subscribers, which is so cool, man. It's so cool. I'm super pumped about that, and that's actually what encouraged me to make this video, because I hopped on and saw that I was there, and it's just one of those things where the more I see from you guys, the more engagement I see from you guys, the more I want to put more stuff up. So anyway, so today's video is going to be all about accelerating and braking. So I talked yesterday about the apexes and stuff like that, and the turns, and setting the car up right, and using the rumble strips and stuff like that. I will be referencing some stuff in that video in this one today. So if you haven't seen it, it's worth a watch. If you're interested in getting better, if you don't really care, then it doesn't really matter. But if you're interested in getting better, that one's worth a watch. It's called Forza 7, How to Prepare, and I think I'm just going to keep calling them that, but I'll update them obviously with what I'm going to talk about. So it's all about acceleration and braking today. So I always use the braking lines when I race, and the reason I do that is because you can have like a full hardcore like sim experience if you turn everything off, and if the track's well enough and stuff like that, the car's well enough. But for me, the braking lines at the very least give me a solid braking point. And I think once we get to Forza 7, it's going to be that much more important, because they talk about dynamic weather and times of day. So if you have like a certain thing where you brake based on the lighting changes and the time of day changes and stuff, you may have a different entry point where you'd brake, and your braking may be off. So for me, I think it would be even more important in Forza 7 for me to use the braking lines. But it's just my personal preference. They're there, so that I can use them. So first of all, I do use ABS, which means that I can totally mash the trigger, and I don't lock up the tires, or they kind of help unlock them. I'm not as good as modulating the left trigger as I am the right, so that's why I use the ABS. So it's very important that because your straight line speed is one thing, and I talked yesterday about how you don't want to, at least in my opinion, and I've literally seen this work out. I've seen this benefit in actual time. Tenths of seconds, like a tenth or 2 tenths across a whole lap of basically a difference where you accelerate fully straight down a line versus where you accelerate fully straight with like maybe 1 or 2 minor adjustments to straighten the car out. So it's important to stay straight, but other than that, the majority of the time you spend on the track, you spend turning. So as you come into a turn, you want to, you don't necessarily want to be braking in the middle of the turn, if that makes sense. So the apex would be the sharpest point of the turn, you know, like right there. So you don't want to be braking necessarily at that point. So my strategy, and there, you know, there's one or two. Some people like to brake earlier and accelerate out earlier, and that's kind of my take on it. The reason I do that is because, for example, if you take a corner that's leading onto a long straight, for example, the faster you can exit that turn, you'll actually be gaining speed down that entire straight. And this is something you can see in Rivals mode if you race against a Ghost. For me, the visualization of racing against a Ghost is you can't beat it. If you go into the Rivals mode and you pick someone who's maybe, say, a half second faster than you, 0.5 faster than you, you can really visualize where they're pulling away from you and what different things you do in different turns affects your car. So I said that yesterday, but like if you're going through a turn and you start to go slightly off the track and you have to lift off the gas for a second to make sure you don't, and then you get right back on it and you think like, oh, it's just a quick little lift off, you can actually watch the car ahead of you pull away. And it's sort of a bad feeling. Feels real bad, man. And so that's something that I would recommend is racing in the Rivals, and you can really fine-tune this. But as you come into a corner, you want to brake as late as possible, basically. So if you brake too late, you'll be carrying too much speed, and you'll push too far out, and you might go off the track. You might go too deep into a corner, which won't set you up for your next corner. So there's a lot of things to consider here, but one of the things to consider is, you know, every turn you take, you're basically setting yourself up for what comes after that. So if you have a really crappy turn that leads onto a long straight and you take it really poorly and you have to lift off and you lose like 5 miles an hour, then you're basically going to be 5 miles an hour down that whole straight, which can be a problem. So basically, perfecting a lap is about, you know, chaining together your turns. And so it's not just about taking one turn as fast as possible. It's about taking that turn as fast as possible while not messing yourself up for the next turn. And so you want to brake basically as late as you can. If you watch the way I brake, a lot of the time I'll brake already after I'm a car length or two into where it's showing me red in the braking zone. And that's just from experience, you know, like right there, I'm not braking until right there. And I don't know this car as well, so this is kind of a good example because I'm not going to be driving this car flawlessly, but you want to brake as late as possible, like that. And then what you want to do, oh, that was terrible. And what you want to do is you want to brake right up until the point where you don't have to brake anymore and you can make it through the turn. And you basically want to be fully on the gas until you have to brake. And as soon as you have to brake, you want to switch. So you want to come off the gas, get on the brake, and you only want to brake until the halfway point of the turn, or the apex. And once you hit that apex, then you're off the brake and you're right back on the gas. Now, you don't want to necessarily mash the gas right away because you might spin out. You might not be able to finish the rest of the turn. So it's up to you to know the car you're driving and the turn you're on and the track, and that comes with practice. But it's up to you to know exactly when that right moment is, and you can feel it with the car. Once you race with the car enough, and once you race, and again, all these underlying things I'm talking about, these are like improvement, you know, techniques or whatever. We're talking about just really in-depth analysis of a turn. But you have to be able to drive. If you can't take turns and stay on the track most of the time, then these aren't going to really mean much to you. I mean, they'll help you, but they mean more once you can control the car, because it's something that helps you improve speed. So, you know, get that down. If you don't have the turning quite down and you go off consistently, if you go off more than a couple times in a lap, if you go off the track with, you know, the grass or something, I'd say just keep going, keep racing, and don't try to overdo it. You know, don't try to go super fast. You know, you can play conservatively and you can learn to drive cleanly. And this is my theory. I learned to drive cleanly first, and then I started adding speed after that. So I learned to drive within the limits of the track and not go off the track and not hit other people. I learned to drive like that first, and then I started trying to improve my speed. And in my opinion, that's a better way to go because you already have more of the fundamentals down of staying on the track. But so if you're going to come in, you're gonna go straight gas as long as you can, and then you're going to brake all the way until right before the apex, and then the moment you get basically to the apex or right around it, like right here, watch, come off the brake, back on the gas. So you come off the brake and get back on the gas, and you accelerate out of the turn. So much like I was saying yesterday, if you imagine a full 90-degree corner left, let's say, as a sweeping arc, you're going to line up on the far outside right as you come into the turn, and you're going to arc in, and as soon as you cut the corner, you're going to cut, and I've lost more recording there for whatever reason, you're going to cut into the corner, and you're going to cut as close in the corner as you can, and then it's going to push you toward the outside of the turn. And so the way to accomplish that is you brake, and you want to avoid trying to brake and turn necessarily at the same time. You can tap the brakes a little bit as you're turning, but mainly as a rule, you want to brake and then turn, and then get back on the gas. So it's your job. There's basically, you know, two things going on as you come into the corner. You want to take the perfect line with the car, and you want to position the car just perfectly, but you also want to wait as long as possible to brake as much as you need to, and as soon as you know that you can make the turn, you can lift off the brake and get back on the gas. And then the second part of the turn, so the entry and the exit, right? So the entry is come in as long as you can. Now, you don't want to overdo it, because if you go too deep, you'll go off the track, and again, you'll mess up your exit, which can mess up your time. So come in, brake as late as possible, slow down, and as soon as you know you hit that point, then you can lift off the brake, and you're now in the second part of the turn. So at this point, you should be right around the apex, either just before, just after. Kind of depends on your actual driving style, but you'd be right around the apex of the turn, the sharpest point of the turn. So in the scenario of a 90-degree left turn, you've come in on the far right, you've braked or broke, and you've just released the brake, and you're basically at the point where the front of your car is just coming through the apex. So now you lift off the brake and you get back on the gas. And the second part of the turn is the exit. So you want to accelerate basically as soon as possible, but just like waiting too long to brake, if you wait too long to brake, you'll go sailing off the track. If you get on the gas too early or too hard, then you'll go off the track on the exit. Or you might slide the back tires out a little bit and then have to release the gas, and then you might lose some miles an hour, and then you're going to lose those miles an hour all the way up until the next turn, as I was saying before. So the smoothest exit possible is to gas it as much as possible while barely staying on the track. And that's what I was talking about yesterday. That's why as you come out of the apex, you're going to be pushing toward the outside of the corner. Like this turn right here, watch. You'll see I come in real close on the inside right, and then I'm pushing out, and I'm almost coming over those rumble strips on my left. And that's because I'm giving the car so much gas that I'm barely able to keep it on the track. However, if you use every ounce of the track, every square inch of the track to your advantage, you actually get more speed. So again, there you come in on the left side, and then I'm pushing out to the right. You'll see it again here, right? So I'm slowing down, braking, off the brake, back on the gas. Do it again here. Braking, off the brake, feathering the gas, back on the gas. This corner I don't have to brake, so I just have to line my car up. I just lifted slightly off the gas. So you want to have a perfect entry and a perfect exit. And if you can get not perfect, because it can't ever be perfect. And that's how you get better. You can be smoother on your entries, and see, that was terrible. You can be smoother on your entries and smoother on your exits, and the more you do that, the smoother you get, and the smoother you get, horrible. The smoother, and this is why don't drive in traffic all the time. The smoother you get, the faster times you'll get, the more speed you'll carry, and the more you'll find yourself drifting left and drifting right into the rumble strips, just sort of on your own, just by nature of how much you're giving it, how much gas you're giving it, and how hard you're pushing the car. You're gonna see yourself start to use the edges of the track. So brake, release brake, feathering the gas, back on the gas. So I feather the gas because sometimes I don't want to get back on it too early, but if you just coast, then you've lost a lot of speed. So a lot of people give it a half throttle, or a third of a throttle, and again, I'm not as good at modulating, a little better at doing it with the throttle, meaning like give it a partial push, but it's much easier for me to feather the throttle. So just nailing those, once you can get the apexes down, once you know the track fairly well and you know the car, it's a lot easier to know your braking points, to come in, to brake as late as possible, slow down just as much as you need to, and then release that and get right back on the gas and come out of the turn. And the smoother you can do that, and the better you get at doing that, the faster you'll get, and you'll see your times just improve. And that coupled with what I was talking about yesterday, with the apex being as smooth as possible, taking virtually, what you want to do is you want to take the straightest line possible through the turn so that you can carry the most speed, and that involves having a perfect entry and a perfect exit, which is awesome. So thank you guys for checking this out. I appreciate it. I'll be updating you if I hear any news, and then I'll have another one of these videos coming soon. sort of a little tips and tricks. So thank you guys for checking it out. Again, the support's been awesome. Make sure you subscribe if you like my content. Check back soon. Thank you guys.